and welcome to Craggle's Den. Today I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing this Flashpoint Batman action figure from Mcfarlane Toys. I previously picked up a bunch of figures in this DC Multiverse series, so if you haven't already, be sure to check out that whole video. And of course, if you enjoy this video, please hit that like button and remember to subscribe. This time around, I've got just the one figure, but it's one I've been really excited to get my hands on. For those of you who don't know, this version of Batman first appeared back in 2011 in the superb DC Comics story, Flashpoint. Set in an altered reality, in this timeline, Mugger Joe Chill killed the young Bruce Wayne rather than his parents. The tragedy drove his mother, Martha, insane with grief. After hearing that all her husband wanted to see was her smile again, she carved one into her face, slicing open both of her cheeks, eventually becoming this world's version of the Joker. In contrast, Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, channeled his anger and torment into becoming the vigilante known as Batman. Whilst the Flashpoint Batman used far more brutal methods than his son, even going as far as killing his enemies, this Thomas Wayne was still a hero, choosing to sacrifice his own existence to restore the timeline and his son's life. Controversially, the character was later brought back by divisive writer Tom King, but just pretend that never happened. That's what I do. Flashpoint is actually going to be the inspiration for the new upcoming Flash movie, but rather than have Barry encounter the Thomas Wayne Batman, they've cast Michael Keaton as the older Bruce Wayne from another universe. I'm a huge Batman 89 fan, but as excited as I am to see Keaton don the cape and cowl again, I am disappointed that they're omitting Thomas Wayne as Batman. Especially since Snyder had already cast Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen as Bruce's parents for the opening sequence of Batman v Superman. Casting prominent actors in such a short sequence always made me think that they would one day reprise their roles in a Flashpoint movie. Heck, I even have a giant print of this fan art framed in my house. Alright, let's open this bad boy. I can imagine me doing this being a bit of a shock to some, since I'm an inbox collector when it comes to Funko Pops. And there are some action figures I collect that I also keep boxed. But with these, I decided from the start I would be taking them out. Just like that. There we go. Okay. Yeah, this is probably why some people shoot in portrait. Got a plastic tie holding him in. His cape sticking out the back there. I think it's just the one plastic tie. Fastening him in there. I had thought cutting this from the back would be easy. Oh shit! Okay, I think we're okay. Arms, hands, fingers, face. Yes. Okay. Let's pop him out. Oh, it's tight in there. That's what she said. Right away, I have to say, this fella is a handsome devil. I've always loved the striking red and black colour scheme of Flashpoint Batman, and it looks just as great in person as it did on the page. As you'd expect with this being fresh out the plastic, some of the joints are a bit stiff, although others feel looser than I'd like ideally. One thing I know has been very controversial with the McFarlane figures are these double joints on the knees and elbows. They didn't bother me initially, but the more I play around with these, the more I dislike them. They do allow for some posing that you wouldn't get with regular hinge joints, but I'm not a fan of this elongated curve they can sometimes produce. You can adjust the knee pad piece itself to kind of abridge that. The ankles feature a ball joint which gives you maximum articulation, and then the feet actually have the toes on a front hinge, which looks so unnatural when you flip it up like this. But it does come in handy when you're trying to balance him in a particularly precarious position. The torso has this cut across the abdomen, and you can bend him so far back that he ends up with this unhealthy cavity in the middle of his body. I get why they've done this though. It gives you so much articulation, being able to turn and move just the top part of his torso, so you can get more lifelike movement. And somewhere he looks like he's just twisted his spine. The detail on the sculpts here is just phenomenal. Take a look at the rivets and what I imagine are sword cuts on the surface of his vambraces. These red thigh holsters are made of a more rubbery plastic, so you don't have to worry about them getting in the way when you're posing this fella, and his guns slot in nicely, snug as a bug in a rug. It is unfortunate that you don't get any alternate hand pieces, as without his gun, the hands look suspiciously vacant. You can have him reaching for his weapon, but without him either holding or about to hold his gun, they don't really work all that well on their own. The head sculpt is fantastic. I love the level of detail they've captured here. It's ridiculously impressive for an action figure at this price. Just look at that. It's gorgeous. The shaping is brilliant. There's obviously shading done here with the paintwork, but the sculpt has been done in a way that casts shadows how you would expect a real face to. Speaking of the paint job, they decided to give Thomas some gravelly stubble, and I've seen a lot of people complain that theirs looks like someone just dunked his chin in dirty water. For once, luck was on my side, and I think I got a pretty decent paint job. It's not perfect super close up, but as a whole, I think it looks really good. I also have to applaud the choice to have the bat symbol on his chest as a raised design as opposed to a flat picture just painted on top of his chest sculpt. I really love Flashpoint Batman's emblem, and it looks great here. His cape is a rubbery plastic, so you can bend this a little, but it still keeps this preformed shape. And I friggin' love this thing. I love the lines that give this draped impression like it's hanging from his shoulders with this little sag in the center. Reminds me a lot of Arkham Asylum. It's how a Batman cape should look. One thing I do think could have been done a bit better are his belts and holsters. I love the striking red, and the molds are fine, and material is good, but I just think these could have been given a little bit of shading, just a few areas with a bit of darker red, because as much as I love this colour, it's just a bit too flat compared to the rest of the figure. But you know, that is a minor nitpick. A quick note on the packaging here, as well as the plastic wrap I pulled the figure out of, there's this cardboard insert with a couple more accessories. You get a trading card of the character and a base stand for the figure. The issue I have is I don't think there's any way of getting those out of here without destroying that backing board, and I don't know that I want to do that. As it stands, I could pop the figure back in its plastic and slide it back in here, and it would be pretty much as good as new. I guess, even with these, I'm not 100% over box life. Just so you know I wasn't bullshitting earlier about taking this series out of their boxes, here's the figures I picked up in my previous haul. It's really cool to see them all displayed together. This is meant to be the DC Multiverse series, and there has been a common complaint that it's focused too much on just Batman, which is fair, but I really like having this format of collecting characters or versions of characters from different mediums or continuities of DC in a consistent format. The art style may vary, from say the Batman Arkham Asylum video game figure to the Wonder Woman 1984 movie figure, but the setup is the same, the scale is the same. Although their sizes and proportions are rightly so going to differ, they don't look jarring alongside one another as they would if you were to say grab a figure from one range and then put it next to a figure from a different line. And it is great that they aren't just recycling the same molds, repainted. I have 2 Batmans here, or Batmen, from this line now, and while they work together and have similar articulation points, each one is made of completely new pieces. Despite a few complaints with some of the choices made, I think these figures are exceptionally good value for money. You just don't tend to see this level of detail and quality with most action figures at this price. I do get the calls for them to move away from just producing what seems like a never-ending list of different versions of Batman, and I really do hope that they branch out more, because there is so much in the world of DC I would love to see in this line. Let me know what you think of the Flashpoint Batman and my other DC Multiverse figures in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, drop me a message, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. And together, we'll discover what's inside Kraggle's den.